My mom didn't ask if I was okay after I moved out. She sent me a bill. "I raised you, now pay my bills," she texted, like my childhood had an interest rate. That's when I realized she never saw me as a daughter. Only as an investment. My mom didn't congratulate me when I moved out. She didn't ask if I'd made it safely. She didn't ask if the apartment was nice, or if I needed anything, or if I'd eaten. She waited exactly 2 days. Then she texted me like she was sending a reminder for rent. "I raised you, now pay my bills." No please. No can you help. No shame. Just a sentence that turned my entire childhood into an invoice. I stared at the message in my tiny new kitchen, standing barefoot on a floor that still smelled like fresh paint and cardboard boxes. My apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet you don't realize you've been craving until it finally surrounds you. And that text cut through it like a siren. It wasn't the money that made my stomach drop. It was the certainty. The way she typed it, like my moving out hadn't changed anything. Like I could move my body into a new place, but my life was still owned. I didn't answer right away. I read it over and over, waiting for my brain to interpret it differently, to soften it into something less ugly. It didn't soften. And it wasn't new. That's the part that embarrassed me most, even now, writing this. If you'd met my mom at work, or at church, or at the grocery store, you'd think she was one of those loud, loving women who would do anything for her kids. She was affectionate in public. Always hugging too long. Always talking about how hard she worked, how much she sacrificed, how motherhood aged her 10 years. People loved her stories. They never saw what the stories were buying her. Because in private, my mom didn't love like a person. She loved like a collector. Everything she gave came with a price tag. Every kindness turned into leverage later. Nothing was free, and nothing was ever just done. When I was 10, she'd tell me, "Don't forget who feeds you." When I was 13 and asked if I could go to a friend's birthday party, she'd say, "After all I do for you, you can't even help around here?" When I was 16 and got my first part-time job at a cafe, she didn't say she was proud. She said, "Good. Now you can contribute." Contribute meant, give her part of my paycheck. At first it was a little. Then it was for groceries. Then it was for the electric bill. Then it was, you live here, you pay here. I didn't argue because the alternative was unbearable. My mom didn't do loud anger. She did something worse. She did wounded rage. The kind where she'd cry and slam cabinets and talk about how no one appreciates her, and then she'd go silent for days, moving through the house like a ghost who wanted you to know you'd killed her. When I was a kid, I thought my job was to make her happy. I thought that was what being a daughter meant. I didn't learn until much later that most kids don't feel like emotional paramedics. But I did. I was always measuring the temperature of the room before I spoke. Always scanning her face for storms. And because I got good at it, everyone assumed I was fine. My mom had a talent for making her problems sound like emergencies that only I could solve. It started with small things. "Can you talk to the landlord for me? He respects you more." "Can you call the bank? They confuse me." "Can you fill out this form? I can't deal with paperwork." I became her translator, her receptionist, her therapist, her proof that she wasn't failing. When I went to college, she didn't try to stop me. She did something smarter. She made it so leaving felt like abandonment. "You're going to forget about me," she'd say, laughing like it was a joke. "Just like your father did." My dad left when I was 8. He didn't vanish completely, but he became a holiday card and a few calls a year. My mom treated that fact like a weapon she could swing whenever she needed compliance. "Don't be like him," she'd say. "Don't leave me." I absorbed it like law. So when I graduated, I didn't move out right away. I stayed. I told myself it was temporary. That it made sense financially. That I could save. That I was being responsible. The truth was uglier. I stayed because my mother trained me to believe she would fall apart without me. And if she fell apart, it would be my fault. I watched my friends get their first apartments, their first roommates, their first taste of adult life. I smiled and told them I was helping my mom out. Sometimes they'd look at me like they wanted to say something, but didn't know how. I get it now. It's hard to tell someone they're drowning when they've built a home underwater. The final push came because my mom didn't just want my labor anymore. She wanted my future. I got a promotion at work. Not a huge one, but enough that I could finally breathe. When I told her, she clapped her hands and squealed like she was proud. Then she said, "Okay. So we can upgrade the cable package." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Within a week, she had a list. Real paper, stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. New couch. New TV. Better internet. Her credit card payment. A small loan to her friend she'd apparently promised to cover. All labeled under one heading in her handwriting. Our plan. I stared at it one night while she slept, and something in my chest turned cold. It wasn't a plan. It was a takeover. When I told her I wanted to move out, she didn't scream at first. She stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. "Why," she said slowly, "would you do that?" "Because I'm an adult," I replied. "I want my own place." Her lips trembled. She pressed a hand to her chest, dramatic. "So you're leaving me," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm moving out." "You're leaving," she repeated, louder. "Just like your father." That was her favorite comparison. Her sharpest knife. I took a breath and tried to be calm. "I'm not Dad," I said. "I'm your daughter. And I'm not responsible for you like that." Her eyes narrowed. "Like what?" "Like paying for everything," I said. "Like managing your life." Her voice rose. "So what, I'm a burden now? After everything I sacrificed?" I knew where it was going. The guilt carousel. Round and round until I threw up my boundaries and begged for forgiveness. But this time, something had changed. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the promotion. Maybe it was the way I'd caught myself daydreaming about silence, about a door that locked, about waking up without dread. I said, very quietly, "I'm moving out." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile that meant she'd already started planning how to punish me for daring. "Fine," she said. "Go. You'll see how hard it is. You'll come crawling back." I moved out anyway. 2 suitcases. A few boxes. A cheap couch from Facebook Marketplace. A mattress that arrived in a cardboard tube like a compressed version of my life. On moving day, my mom stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, watching like a judge. She didn't hug me. She didn't say good luck. She said, "Don't forget to forward your mail. And don't forget you still owe me for the phone bill." I should have known the first text was coming. But I still wasn't prepared for how quickly she tried to reattach the leash. 2 days later, there it was. "I raised you, now pay my bills." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The old version of me wanted to type, "How much?" To fix it. To stop the noise. To buy peace. The new version of me, standing in my own kitchen, realized something simple and terrifying. If I paid once, I would never be free. So instead of answering, I opened my notes app. And I started listing every single thing she'd ever done that made me feel like I wasn't a daughter. I was a wallet. And as I typed, my phone buzzed again. A second message. "Mom, don't ignore me. I have deadlines." The word deadline sat on my screen like a threat dressed up as responsibility. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't feel the pull. I did. My chest was tight, my palms damp, my brain already calculating numbers, already trying to figure out how much it would take to make her calm again. That reflex didn't disappear just because I moved out. It lived in my body. My mom didn't wait long. By noon, she sent another message. Longer this time. Structured. Bullet points. Mom. Electric, $143. Internet, $89. Phone, your line $76. Credit card minimum, $412. Mom, since you don't live here anymore, you should take responsibility for these. You owe me for raising you. I stared at the list, my heart pounding. She hadn't asked if I could help. She'd decided I would. And she'd reframed it like logic. Like fairness. Like she wasn't asking her child to subsidize her life, but collecting on a loan. I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Me, I'm not paying your bills. The reply came instantly. Mom, wow. Mom, so that's who you are now. Mom, I hope you're proud of yourself. There it was. The shame. The disappointment wrapped in righteousness. Then came the voice note. I almost didn't play it. But I knew if I didn't, my imagination would make it worse. Her voice was shaky, breathy, full of pain. I guess I just don't matter anymore, she said. I gave you everything. I put my life on hold. And this is how you repay me. I can't believe I raised someone so cold. I pressed stop before the end. My hands were shaking. I sat on the floor of my apartment with my back against the couch, listening to the hum of the fridge, grounding myself in the fact that I was alone. That she wasn't here. That she couldn't see me. My phone buzzed again. Mom, if you don't help me, I'll lose the house. Mom, is that what you want? My stomach dropped. I called my best friend, Lena, because I could feel myself slipping. She says she'll lose the house, I said, voice cracking. Lena didn't hesitate. Has she ever lost the house before? No. Then she's lying, Lena replied. Or exaggerating. Same thing. But what if she isn't? I whispered. Then it's still not your responsibility, she said gently. You're not her spouse. You're not her parent. You're her child. That sentence felt illegal. Children weren't allowed to say that in my family. That night, my mom escalated. She added me to a group chat I hadn't been in since high school. Family matters. My aunts. An uncle. A cousin I barely spoke to. And immediately, the messages started. Aunt, your mother is under so much stress. Uncle, family takes care of each other. Aunt, you shouldn't turn your back on the woman who raised you. My mom didn't say anything in the chat. She didn't need to. She let the chorus do the work. I felt my throat close up, the familiar urge to explain myself to people who already had their minds made up. Instead, I muted the chat. The next day, my mom showed up at my workplace. I saw her through the glass doors of the lobby, standing at the reception desk like she belonged there. My heart slammed into my ribs. I walked out slowly, trying to keep my face neutral. What are you doing here? I asked. She smiled, bright and practiced. I just wanted to talk, she said loudly. Since you won't answer your phone. This isn't appropriate, I said quietly. She tilted her head. I raised you. I think I've earned 5 minutes. People were watching. Of course they were. She leaned closer, lowering her voice just enough to feel intimate, invasive. If you don't start helping me, she whispered, I'll tell everyone you abandoned me. I'll tell them what kind of daughter you are. Something in me snapped. Not loudly. Cleanly. You're not allowed to be here, I said, louder now. If you don't leave, I'll call security. Her eyes widened in shock. Then they filled with tears on command. I just wanted help, she said to no one in particular. I guess that's too much to ask. I walked back inside without another word. Security escorted her out. That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. Because a mother who loves you doesn't try to destroy your life to control you. That evening, I went through my finances carefully. I changed passwords. Closed the old joint account she still had access to for convenience. Froze my credit. Called my bank and explained, calmly, that someone was attempting to coerce me financially. The woman on the phone paused. "I'm really sorry," she said. "We see this more often than people think." That sentence lodged itself in my chest. This had a name. This was abuse. My mom didn't know yet that the door she'd always pushed on was finally locked. She texted again that night. "Mom, last warning. Mom, if you don't pay, I'll make sure everyone knows how ungrateful you are." I looked at the message and felt tired. Not scared. Not guilty. Just done. I realized then that no amount of explaining would ever satisfy her. Because the problem wasn't misunderstanding. It was entitlement. And entitlement doesn't negotiate. It demands. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my photo gallery. And I selected the image I'd been preparing for days. The one photo that said everything I couldn't explain without being dragged back into her storm. I stared at it for a long time before sending it. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, are you ignoring me on purpose?" I took a deep breath. Because I knew the next message would be the last one she ever received from me. I sent the photo at 9:17 p.m. No caption. No explanation. Just the image. It was a picture of my childhood bedroom. Not the one she'd curated for guests. Not the version she showed on Facebook with neatly made beds and framed school photos. This was the real one. Bare walls. A mattress on the floor. A space heater plugged into a power strip because the heat cost too much. And taped to the inside of the closet door, a yellowing piece of paper with my handwriting on it, crooked and careful. "Mom, I paid electric $120, Jan. Groceries $95. Phone $60. You said you'd pay me back." I'd taken the photo earlier that week when I went back to grab the last of my things. I hadn't planned to use it. I'd just stood there longer than I meant to, staring at the list I'd forgotten existed. I remembered making it when I was 17. I remembered how proud she'd looked when I handed her cash from my after-school job. "You're so mature," she'd said. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I hadn't known then that praise was payment. The photo showed the list clearly. The dates. The amounts. My handwriting getting messier as the months went on. Proof. Not that she needed it. That I did. Her response came less than a minute later. "Mom, why are you sending me this?" Then another. "Mom, what is that supposed to mean?" I waited. Because I knew what came next. Her voice note arrived, sharp and furious. "Are you seriously trying to rewrite history now?" she snapped. "You're sick. I did everything for you. Everything. And this is the thanks I get? Digging up old crap to avoid responsibility?" I listened to the entire thing without stopping it. That alone felt like progress. Then I typed. Slowly. Carefully. One sentence. "Me, I've been paying your bills since I was a child. I'm done." The typing bubble appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Her reply came in fragments. "Mom, that's not true. Mom, you're twisting things. Mom, I needed help. Any good daughter would help. Mom, I sacrificed everything for you." I didn't respond. She sent another voice note, this one softer, shakier. "I don't understand why you're doing this to me," she said. "I'm your mother. I'm all you have." That sentence used to terrify me. Now it sounded like a confession. I replied once more. Me, I'm not your backup plan. I'm your child. Her final messages came in a rush. Mom, if you block me, don't bother coming back. Mom, don't expect anything from me ever again. Mom, you'll regret this when I'm gone. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding, tears burning my eyes. Not because I was scared. Because I was grieving. The mother I wished she could be. The relationship I kept trying to earn. The fantasy that if I just paid enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, she'd finally choose me over control. I typed my last message. Me, I'm choosing myself. Then I blocked her. Her number. Her email. Her social media. I sat on my couch in the dark, my phone face down on the table, waiting for panic. It didn't come. What came instead was a deep, shaking breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for years. The next day, the consequences arrived. My aunt called from an unknown number. I didn't answer. A cousin messaged me on Instagram, "Your mom is devastated." I didn't reply. My workplace forwarded an email from her, demanding to speak to someone in charge. HR handled it. Firmly. She's not to contact us again, they told me. We'll document it. That afternoon, I filed a harassment report at the police station. Not because I expected an arrest. Because I wanted a record. A line drawn in ink. When I got home, my apartment felt different. Quieter. Lighter. Like it belonged to me. I stood in my kitchen and realized something strange. For the first time in my life, my phone wasn't a threat. It was just a phone. No contact didn't feel like freedom right away. It felt like withdrawal. The first week after I blocked my mother, my body kept expecting impact. Every vibration of my phone made my stomach clench. Every knock in the hallway outside my apartment sent a spike of fear through my chest. I slept lightly, waking up convinced I'd missed some emergency, some catastrophe she would later blame on me. None came. What did come were the echoes. Her voice in my head when I bought something small for myself. Her tone when I rested instead of being productive. Her accusation when I laughed too loudly or felt too calm. Guilt doesn't disappear when abuse stops. It lingers, like a phantom limb. I started therapy 2 weeks later. Not because I felt broken, but because I wanted language for what I'd lived through. I wanted to know why my chest tightened every time someone asked me for help. Why no felt like a sin instead of a sentence. My therapist didn't hesitate. You were parentified, she said. And financially abused. Hearing it said out loud made me cry harder than I expected. Not because it hurt. Because it finally made sense. I wasn't selfish. I wasn't cold. I wasn't ungrateful. I was exhausted from being a child who was never allowed to be one. My mother didn't disappear quietly. She tried new numbers. New email addresses. She sent messages through relatives like poison notes. She's worried about you. She's sick with stress. She just wants to talk. I didn't respond. Every reply would have been an invitation. Some family members stopped speaking to me entirely. Others hovered, uncomfortable, like they were afraid boundaries were contagious. A few surprised me. My aunt, the loudest enabler, sent a short message months later. I didn't know she made you pay bills that young. I'm sorry. It wasn't an apology. But it was an acknowledgement. I took it. My younger sibling reached out carefully, using a borrowed phone. I'm okay, they said. I miss you. That was the hardest part. I kept the door open for them, quietly, safely. I never spoke badly about our mother. I never justified my choice to them. I just told the truth. I love you, I said. And I'm here. As the months passed, something inside me began to settle. I learned what my apartment sounded like when I wasn't bracing for criticism. I learned that silence could be kind. That money could be neutral. That love didn't have to be earned in installments. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. I started making plans that didn't involve contingency funds for emotional disasters. One night, I found myself standing in my kitchen again, barefoot, washing dishes after dinner. The same spot where I'd read that first text. I raised you, now pay my bills. The memory no longer made my throat tighten. It felt small. Like something that had once towered over me, now reduced to words on a screen. I realized then that blocking her hadn't erased my past. It had reclaimed my future. I still grieve sometimes. Not her, exactly. I grieve the mother I needed. The one who could have loved without collecting. The one who could have let me leave without turning it into a debt. But grief and guilt are not the same thing. And grief doesn't mean going back. If you're reading this and someone has ever told you that you owe them your life because they raised you, hear this clearly. Parenting is not a loan. Love is not an invoice. And freedom doesn't make you cruel. It just means you finally stopped paying for someone else's control. Blocking her wasn't the end of my family. It was the end of my captivity. And that was the first real gift I ever gave myself. I didn't abandon my mother. I escaped a contract I never agreed to. And for the first time in my life, my silence finally belonged to me.